Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are looking at a truly fascinating, completely fundamental shift in how we interact with our technology. Globally, it feels like every single wrist you see is glowing with a screen, right? The worldwide wearables market is absolutely booming. It's expected to hit over 611 million shipments in 2025. But if we zoom in on India, we are seeing a totally different, kind of hidden story unfold. We're witnessing a massive market correction, and it's telling us exactly what consumers actually want. The era of just strapping a basic glorified screen to your wrist, it's ending, and the era of the true AI agent is finally beginning. Okay, let's dive into this. In 2025, India's smartwatch shipments just plummeted. They literally dropped by a staggering 17.6%, falling down to 28.9 million units. Just think about that for a second. For years, all we saw was explosive double-digit growth in the space. So what happened? Well, the truth is, the novelty of the budget watch has just completely faded. We all know the reality. A ton of consumers bought those cheap, generic smartwatches, quickly realized they were essentially just basic notification dashboards with, let's be honest, pretty questionable step counters, and eventually tossed them straight into a drawer of dead, forgotten electronics. They simply decided they didn't need to buy another one. But hold on, this isn't the death of the smartwatch in India. Not at all. It's actually a massive evolution. We're looking at a deeply saturated market for those generic 1,000 to 2,500 rupee watches. However, there is this huge, massively underbuilt opportunity for advanced, premium health watches. In fact, while overall shipment volumes dropped, the average selling price of a smartwatch actually went up. It rose by 11.7% to $26.5. People are actively choosing to buy fewer, but much better devices. They're basically trading up from those $10 knockoffs with the fake green lights on the back, and they're investing in real utility. Stuff with accurate, verified heart rate sensors and actual, usable medical insights. So, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We are going on a physical journey, mapping the future of tech directly onto the human body. We'll be covering 1. The smartwatch market correction, 2. Passive to agentic wearables, 3. Hearables and voice AI, 4. The rise of smart rings, 5. Face and body frontiers, and 6. India's untapped opportunities. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the smartwatch market correction. Like we just established, that massive drop in smartwatch sales isn't a signal to run away from the category. It's actually a loud, crystal-clear demand for meaningful utility. If you're building or investing in this space, future smartwatch value is absolutely not going to come from generic fitness clones. We just aren't looking for basic step counters anymore. Instead, picture a senior safety watch equipped with real-time fall detection, SOS features, and a direct link to a caregiver. Or imagine a watch that doesn't just lazily tell you had a bad night's sleep, but actually acts as an AI coach, actively connecting your sleep data to your diet, your stress levels, and maybe even your doctor's clinical workflows. Moving right along to Section 2, passive to agentic wearables. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the spatial journey wearables are taking across our bodies. We're moving away from passive wearables and officially entering the era of agentic wearables. Look at how we're evolving from the wrist, moving up to the ear for voice and media, down to the finger for passive health sensing, back up to the face for vision and AI, and finally integrating with the entire body using clinical-grade patches. The overarching trend across all of these completely distinct form factors is a massive strategic shift. We're moving from passive measurement, just counting your daily steps, to intelligent, context-aware action. To fully grasp this shift, we really need to define this term, agentic wearables. Basically, these are devices that combine sensing with AI to actually execute tasks or workflows on your behalf. We're moving way beyond screens that just spit data back at you. Imagine for a second you're walking through a really bustling, super crowded market in Chennai. Instead of pulling out your phone to clumsily type out a translation, an agentic wearable actively isolates the vendor's voice, perfectly cancels out the background noise, and translates their regional language into English directly into your ear in real time. That right there is the massive leap we're making from passive to agentic. That brings us up to the ear in Section 3, hearables and voice AI. Hearables currently represent India's largest wearable volume by far, growing to an incredible 84.7 million units in 2025. But true wireless stereo earbuds, the standard Bluetooth pods everyone uses, they are heavily commoditized. To break out of that generic mold, these devices are totally transforming into vital productivity tools. The high-fit opportunities in India right now revolve around solving real-world friction. We're talking regional live translation for travel or AI call assistants that automatically summarize your meetings and capture CRM data. And the demand for true quality is absolutely there. Premium over-the-ear audio actually saw a massive 65.4% year-over-year growth. That's driven heavily by hybrid work environments where people just desperately need crystal clear focus, whether they're working at a local coffee shop or sitting in a noisy open-plan office.
Now let's move down to the finger force section. 4. The rise of smart rings.
And this brilliantly illustrates the trajectory we're on right now. Global smart ring shipments are still relatively small, but they're accelerating toward a forecasted 4 million units in 2025. While these numbers are sure tiny compared to hundreds of millions of smartwatches, rings provide this highly attractive, incredibly low distraction niche. Because let's be honest, nobody wants a glowing screen suddenly blinding them at 2 a.m. with a totally useless notification. Rings are perfectly suited for passive 24/7 tracking. They are super comfortable, especially for sleep and recovery monitoring, which is exactly why this adoption curve is pointing sharply up. The business model here is totally shifting too. We are seeing a classic David versus Goliath narrative unfolding. The global leader, Aura, has sold around 5.5 million rings and is hitting roughly $1 billion in revenue, which is largely driven by their premium health subscriptions. Meanwhile, emerging Indian brands like Ultra Human, Noise, Boat, and Fit are fiercely jumping into the ring, pun totally intended. Now, Indian consumers are traditionally pretty skeptical. The initial barriers are usually pricing and deep trust in whether these tiny little sensors are actually accurate. But as local brands overcome those specific hurdles, they are unlocking a massive, untapped market for affordable, highly accurate rings, particularly those focusing on urban health, metabolic optimization, and women-specific cycle and recovery tracking.
All right, let's look at the absolute cutting edge in Section 5, Face and Body Frontiers.
When we say smart glasses, it is incredibly easy to get lost in the sci-fi hype about floating holograms filling up our entire field of view. But let's ground that in reality for a second. Out of the 8.7 million AI glasses shipped globally in 2025, a staggering 91.6% are screenless camera audio models, just exactly like the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. This proves that the vital first step for consumers isn't a complex, headache-inducing holographic display. It works precisely because it uses technology that is essentially invisible. People already wear sunglasses, right? Adding hands-free AI, POV capture, and voice assistance seamlessly into a form factor they already trust and wear every single day, that is the winning formula. Moving down to the rest of the body, we leave consumer lifestyle gadgets completely behind and enter the vital clinical realm. The Indian wearable medical devices market is projected to skyrocket from $1.2 billion in 2025 to a massive $4.4 billion by 2034. And this isn't some passing fad. This is deeply structural demand. Consider the hospital-at-home movement. A body-worn clinical patch can monitor a patient recovering from surgery in the comfort of their own bedroom, sparing them an incredibly expensive, totally uncomfortable extra week in a hospital bed. These remote patient monitoring and chronic disease management tools are seeing explosive growth precisely because they integrate directly into real healthcare provider systems and existing insurance networks. Which brings us to our final stop, Section 6, India's untapped opportunities. So the crucial point is that the highest-ranked opportunities in India aren't about trying to sell mass consumers another flashy gadget or just a tiny replacement for their smartphone. The real winners score highest in highly specific utility. We're talking about enterprise-field smart glasses that keep a worker completely safe and hands-free on a complex assembly line, or remote patient monitoring devices that give a doctor real-time vitals, or regional language hearables, and dedicated elder care wearables. The Indian market is going to adopt these advanced technologies first, not just when they look cool, but when they aggressively solve real work, safety, and pressing family healthcare problems. The days of buying a generic wearable just to lazily check a step count dashboard, those days are fading fast. We are entering this incredibly exciting era where our devices will hear, see, and actively work right alongside us as intelligent agents. So I want to leave you with this deeply personal thought. As this technology makes a massive leap from just passively tracking your data to agentic AI actually taking intelligent action on your behalf, what part of your life will you automate first? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to unpack the future of tech.